To the Black girl who is too familiar with what it feels like to hold your breath, this episode is for you. Today, I'm sitting down with founder of the Exhale app, Katara McCarty, and we're going to talk about all things exhaling, reclaiming your breath, and finding the strength to allow yourself to be seen by finally letting go. Hello, welcome back to the Black Girl Scene podcast, where we discuss all things feeling seen, known, and loved. I'm your host, Kaylin Wilson, a licensed clinical social worker in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I have one of my very good friends, one of the first folks I did any online chatting with whatsoever. I'm here with the Katara McCarty. She's a sought after coach, author, and podcast host dedicated to cultivating brave spaces of belonging for Black, Indigenous, and women of color. As a Black and biracial woman, Katara has braved her own healing story from early childhood wounds and thriving after interpersonal violence. And she's committed to offering that same experience of healing to others through amplifying the richness of Black, Indigenous, and women of color and their stories while advocating and providing emotional well-being resources through her award-winning app, Exhale. Welcome to the show, Katara.
You for having me. I'm so excited to be with you and just to be in community with you and in this conversation. So thanks for
Yes,
having me.
it's always a joy. I remember stumbling upon your app back in the day, and I was like, where have you been all of my life? And I just think that's just such a huge reflection of the gift that you are. So thank you for being here with us today.
Of
Well,
course.
how we get started, I want to know, how are you allowing yourself to be seen in this season of your life?
Oh, wow. This is a conversation that I've been actually having with my husband. I have been feeling a little bit like I want to hide
Mhm.
and just kind of stay in bed with the blankets over my head. And it's not in alignment with the work that I do. And so I've actually been exploring about how I can be seen more, like how can I put my out to the world even more. So leaning into that, going outside because I love to stay inside. And I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it has been winter here. And so
Yeah.
I stay inside in the winter.
Yes.
So when
Yes.
I went to an event last night, and somebody looked at me, they were like, "Where have you been?" I was like, "Girl, I hibernate in the winter."
Yes.
So coming outside, going
Wow.
to events, um, to be seen, right? Like I'm here, my work is here, and so really leaning in. I'm very present on social media, but um, out in public, it's like I have
Mm.
to get dressed.
Yeah.
I have to go outside. I have to be seen in public, right?
Mhm.
And so I've been
Mhm.
challenging myself to get outside more.
Yeah. I was just in Indy a couple of weeks. I wish I knew. I would have
Oh
called you.
my gosh.
It really is winter up there, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
Yes.
you that you are
Been a
facing
rough It's been a rough winter too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But what you're talking about, I think, is it takes effort to be seen, and we don't always like that. Like the idea of being seen feels really passive. It feels like you just are there and then people just like see you, but it's truly an active process where you have to like do something in order for
that's
that to
right.
happen.
That's right.
So I see you in your efforts. I see you in
Thank
your
you.
effort.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you are the founder of the Exhale app, a first
Yeah.
of its kind meditation and well-being app made for and by Black women. Can you tell us, where did it come from? Tell us the story behind the app. How did we get Exhale?
Yeah. Well, exhale really came from a place of frustration and anger. I never thought that I would have an app. It was never on my vision board. It wasn't something that I was aspiring to do or hoping to do one day. It happened in 2020 in the spring. I was really trying to get grounded and centered and meditate in the midst of the beginning of a global pandemic, really battling a lot of fear, like many of us were, a lot of uncertainty. We were being told if we could stay home to stay home. Events down here in downtown Indianapolis were all being shut down. It was terrifying. My mother is an elderly woman, and I was scared for her because the news was reporting that the Black community was being impacted by COVID disproportionately, because we have pre-existing conditions is what the news was saying. And
Mhm.
so that was really scary to me. I was also frustrated by the reporting around that and how um, they weren't telling the full story or the full narrative around why um, you know we were being impacted in that way. It was because of systemic racism, um, health inequities, but they weren't saying that part. It was just like, oh, Black people are dying, you know, from COVID
Right.
and white people. And I was just like,
Right.
so there was this frustration around the reporting. There was fear around, is my mother going to make it through this? My sister is a social worker. She was still in April going into people's homes because she wasn't afforded the luxury of staying home because of her job and having to pay bills. And so she still had to engage with people in person. And so there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of certainty, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. Ahmaud Arbery,
Mhm.
they were reporting on his killing and death, and just the commentary over that was harmful to the Black community, let alone watching one of our own be literally hunted down and killed. And so I just remember like feeling all of the things.
Mhm.
And trying to meditate and reaching for my phone and looking at these mainstream mental health apps and platforms that I had engaged with
Mhm.
um, in my life. I had engaged with them on many occasions, and I was turning to them and realizing that they weren't saying anything about what was going on. They weren't offering up any kind of culturally sensitive or culturally relevant content to the Black community. And while I wasn't surprised, I was very frustrated and angry. And so I just started doing a deep dive.
Mhm.
My deep dive is Googling.
Yeah.
I'm like, surely
Yeah.
there's an app that exists for specifically for Black women. And I
Mhm.
was just looking and looking on my phone and looking on my phone. I'm like, there's nothing. And so I just sat there in silence for a few moments and just closed my eyes and
Mhm.
really began to ask the question, how can I show up for my community right now?
Yeah.
How can I show up? And I
Mhm.
saw a gap and I saw something that I wanted and what I desired, and it wasn't available. And so I remember
Mhm.
coming upstairs from my basement and looking at my husband and saying, I have an idea. And he was like,
Mhm.
okay. And I
Uh-huh.
told him, I'm like, I think that I want to create an app for Black women that really centers Black women and our experiences with meditation, breathwork technique, calming sounds, all the things.
All the
And
things.
he looked back at me. He was like, that's actually a really great idea. How can I support and help you? And so my family
Mhm.
got involved and we were able to bring Exhale to life.
I love that. You got to bring the breath to life. I love that. And I think that's where we're really similar that I had the idea for Black Girl Scene prior to the pandemic, but through watching all the things you just named, felt that same
Yeah.
pull. And I remember when I was planning out the group, because when I first started, I did groups and I've been meaning to do them again, y'all. So, work with me. Hopefully they're coming back. But I remember looking and I was like, Who's gonna what am I gonna use for the meditation outside of my own voice? Like, where are these things?" And then when I found your app, I was like, wow, this couldn't be more perfect. And I remember that those are one of the the feedback was that the meditations were some of the most welcoming parts of that group.
Mm,
Because I felt seen through that. They felt seen knowing that the voices they heard sounded like there's the the language used made sense. It felt like home. It didn't feel like you were trying on some whole other person or life lived experience in order to access your body. You were able to do it through something that already felt like home. So I
Mm,
heard that.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's my intent, right? Is to
Mhm.
create a place where we can be seen, we can be heard. And that's a lot of the feedback that we get is when Black women download the app, open the app, they immediately through the content start seeing themselves visually in the app, they start hearing themselves and that it feels like a coming home. And that's
Yeah.
why I have been really unapologetic about, hey, we are centering Black women in this space,
Mhm.
and I'm standing 10 toes down on that,
Yeah.
that's what Exhale is, that's what we're
Yeah.
about, and that it is a space for us by us.
Yeah. That's huge, especially in a time where there's some pressure to walk away from creating a space for anyone who wants to name who they are, firstly, but then specifically for Black women.
Mhm.
It's
For
really
sure.
great. Yeah. So then when you think about Black women in particular, it makes me think, well, I really do think about the movie Waiting to Exhale when I think about that. I'm gonna go ahead and get that out there now. We think about the movie.
It was definitely a nod to the movie. I'm a '80s, '90s girl, like,
Yeah.
I was born in the '70s, Waiting
Yeah.
to Exhale, and that's
Yeah.
the name came from, like, what if Black women, um, what if we didn't have to go around,
Mhm.
holding our breath, right?
Mhm.
What if we could truly exhale? What would that mean? What
Yeah.
could we create? Look at what we're creating holding our breath, right? Look at what we're
Right.
doing tensed up all the time,
Right.
moving, weaving in and out of a world that is harmful to
Mhm.
us through these oppressive
Mhm.
systems. So what could we create if we return to our breath and
Yeah.
exhale? So we are no longer waiting, no
Yeah.
longer to
No more
exhale. Yeah.
waiting. No
Nod
more
to
wait.
the movie, nod to
Yes. Yes.
the queens.
I know. Uh, I just loved the 30th anniversary not too long ago.
I know.
It make and that's where it makes me think, what's your relationship to holding your breath? I imagine that you've had a story with that that's led you to also feel so moved to support Black women through the breath specifically. What's that been like for you?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I feel like when I kind of trace my story, it always goes back to my origin story. Like when I was born, I was abandoned at the hospital by my biological mother. And I really believe through therapy and through coaching and the work that I have done internally that that's when I learned to start holding my breath.
Mhm.
Um, I was abandoned, therefore, I didn't have my biological mother anymore. I didn't have anybody, the nurses, whoever was on, you know, clocked in that at that time was there to care for me. And I'm grateful for that. And then I went into foster care, so I believe that my physical body experienced a lot of trauma, the minute I took my first breath physically into this earth. Um, and that stayed with me for so many years of holding that trauma, that tension, waiting for the next person to abandon me, for the next person to leave me. And so I think that it hasn't been until my later years, in like my 40s and 50s, that I really have learned how to take a deep exhale and to let my shoulders relax and to understand how to move trauma out of my not just my mind and my soul but also my body, and really learn how to lean into safety where I can. And so I think the practice of exhaling really stems back to to the beginning where I experienced my first trauma.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that
of
with us
course.
and sharing your story even before now. I know it's so vulnerable to be a founder and allow your story to be the base of what you're building. And I think it is so powerful that you're naming that your breath is, albeit a root to the pain, was the thing that stemmed and grew into your tree of healing. Like that's a really powerful thing. And I think you're naming a piece that I think now we're more used to hearing traumas in the body. We have to heal through the body. But that is not what we were calling it back then.
Oh,
That's
absolutely not. I
that's
mean, as a matter of fact, like, and I know I'm not alone in this. I was adopted by um, a family, and my mom, God love her, would look at me even when I would like start crying or I was upset, like, what are you crying for? Um, stop crying, hush up, suck up those tears, right? Like, pull it together. And so as a community, I know that, that was very common in the Black community. Like, you did not
Mhm.
show a crack in your, like if you were breaking
Mhm.
down, it was like,
Yep,
get it together, like
yep,
snap
tighten
it up,
up.
button
Mhm.
it up, like you're fine. So many occasions, my mom would be like, you're fine, stop
Yep.
crying, stop crying. So, so we're,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
but
Literally.
literally swallowing our tears and
Yeah.
swallowing and pushing and shoving our emotions down. And so, the idea and the practice of, relaxing and allowing is really, um, I think that something that we do with exhale, there is an education piece to
Mhm.
that leads to practice, right? There
Yeah.
is an education around like what actually happens when I take a
Mhm.
deep inhale and a long exhale. Like, our
Yeah.
nervous systems literally shift into a state of calm. And that's why I talk about how there's so much power in our breath because we can experience a microaggression at work that was harmful and traumatizing. And we can go to the bathroom, we can go to our cubicle, back to our cubicle, we can go to our car, and we can do some breath work,
Yep.
some inhales and some exhales and shift our nervous system. There is power in our breath. And so really educating our community around our breath is a free resource. It's with us all the
Mhm.
time. We can access it whenever we want. It's such a gift, and a resource for us and how to tap into our breath. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It is always with us, and then it makes me think about what stops us, right, outside of education from accessing it, and that's when it shows up for me as a vulnerability practice. And so can you share with us more about what you think when it comes to breath work, when it comes to exhaling, when it comes to accessing that for ourselves, how that's actually really vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, especially for Black women,
Mhm.
it's hard to put our guard down. That's what it feels like, right? It feels
Mhm.
like this moment of, um, you know, taking off the armor or allowing ourselves to like, settle into our seat and lower our shoulders like we don't have to be on guard. And that is a level of vulnerability that can put us in harm's way, right? So what I tell the women that I coach and even through the app, like find resources like Exhale where it's a trusted resource where like because some of these platforms, these wellness platforms are very white centered, very whitewashed, right? Like um, owned by white men producing and being well resourced to produce content for predominantly female women
Mhm.
audience, and usually that's whiteness is being centered in those resources. And so finding trusted resource like Excel, finding spaces where you can, like Black Girl Scene and what you offer, right? Like, where are those places where I can relax, where I can lower my shoulders, where I can close my eyes, where I can take a deep breath and find those spaces and places and creating community around that. And where are those places that you can do that? Because, I've been to the yoga studio where
Mm-hmm.
there's, right? Like it's all like love and light and come
Mm-hmm.
all. But
Yeah.
when whiteness is being centered, it's not
Mm.
just that Black women aren't being seen. It's that Black women are being harmed in those spaces. We hear about the Pilates and, just all of these wellness spaces. And so we do have to be selective. That's why I created Exhale. So we have a place that's a digital space that we can enter into and know that, I'm not, whiteness is not being centered here, right? Like we are not centering whiteness in this space. And um, so taking a deep, long exhale, I understand that we can't do that everywhere, right? That we can't be vulnerable everywhere. And so that's something that I try to put a megaphone to my mouth. Like, yes, I love the idea of like, let's exhale all the time.
Yeah.
Let's be vulnerable all the time. But the reality is, as Black women, we cannot. And so, where are those spaces? Where are those places where you can? And lean into those more and more often, right? Like
Yeah.
take those exhales more and more often so that something does begin to shift in your mind and your heart and also in your body.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes it so radical too, because you're right. I think if you're thinking about anything that centers or includes and immerses in Black women's needs, then you have to acknowledge Black women's safety. And in order to create safety, you have to put that first and foremost before anything else comes, with the intention that there will be room made for our exhaling, our breath, our care, our needs, etc. Yeah. Yeah. And then, when you were talking, you talked about the yoga classes, apply. We've all been there. We've all been in that space where we're like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm not coming back."
Okay.
And then these practices were ours to begin with.
Come on, name that. Yes, yes, of course.
Like,
Pagan, colonized,
yeah. Yeah.
co-opted. Yeah, yeah,
And then taught to disown it, taught that your breath isn't safe, your feelings are bad or wrong, your needs are too much, just
right.
for some other entity to benefit and profit.
We've seen this before,
We've
right?
seen this
We know how,
before.
right? This is nothing new. That's what it's like in the wellness industry, just like it has been in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many industries, and so, like, we are now doing the stare. We're doing the I know you know what I what I mean stare, because it is frustrating, and so that's why I'm actually really passionate. I'm passionate about the word selfish being removed from a Black woman's vocabulary. Can you
Mhm.
talk about the layers that come with feeling like self-care is selfish?
Yeah, I mean
Because we
that,
just talked about how, like, we created care, it was taken from us, and now we think it's selfish to want care.
right. Well, I mean, we literally, this nation was built on the backs of Black people, specifically Black women, labored in a way that even Black men didn't, right? And so um, we have been conditioned to go hard, right? And when we pause or when we shift or we say, I'm going to care for myself, what really is happening is the people that are benefiting from your pulling back and your self care are rearing their heads, right? The system is rearing its head. Actual people will rear their heads, right? When you're not as available to them, right? And so thinking about, the way we've been conditioned to show up in the world, right? And
Mhm.
that, of course, we're going to feel some type of way when we start trying to shift and trying to start, like, hold on a minute, I need to pull back and care for me. I need to actually center myself in this relationship. I actually need to center myself in my own life, right? Like that
Yeah.
all feels real wonky and like you're doing something wrong and how dare
Yeah.
you, right? And so I think that that's a very normal feeling that we have to kind of contend with and almost negotiate with our own selves and also
Right.
think about what do I need to unlearn and relearn about
Mhm.
care,
Mhm.
about caring for me, because as Black women, we are so good at caring
Yeah.
for everybody else. We know how to do it. We
Yeah.
know how to do it, right?
Absolutely.
How do you turn that care toward yourself, right? And just being more intentional around you, right? And what
Mhm.
you need. And that's really, really hard for us to make that shift, but we can do it in small ways. I like to, I heard this from a dear friend of mine, Rhonda Bassard. She repeated this from a therapist that she had heard it from. They call it, they coined it, and I've been using it, is micro self-care. So much like we
Mhm.
experience microaggressions, we should be experiencing micro self-care. So sometimes we think about self-care, we don't know where to start, right? How do
Yeah.
I do that? Or
Mhm.
we think, another friend of mine said, going to get your nails done is not really self-care. That's like self-maintenance, right? So
Yeah.
we need to like
Mhm.
begin to distinguish between what's self-care, what is self-maintenance, and really leaning into like, what do I enjoy? What
Yeah.
do I need?
Absolutely.
Do I actually need a nap right now? I think I do. And
Mhm.
taking that nap,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And doing it in like these like maybe I engage in self-care for 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes. Doesn't have to be all day, right? It can be
Yeah.
all day, right? But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like, and so I like to, when I'm coaching my clients, is like, how do you weave in care throughout the day? Right? So there's been times I've been sitting at my computer, or back when in the day when I was working my corporate job, I'd be sitting at my desk all day and hadn't eaten. I hadn't drank a glass of water. Like, hey, close the laptop and go drink some water. Right? Like that's what you would tell your kids. That's what you would tell
Right.
your sister, your girlfriend, right? Like, take care of you. And so that's what we're saying is what are those small ways that you can just, I'll pause and just put my hand on my chest and be like, I see you, girl. I know this is hard today. Right.
Yeah. That's my map, and that's the map I like to hand back. Like, how would you care for anyone else? Because you're so right. If it were anyone else, you would have a whole list of things that they need. You would offer things to them. You would say things to them. But when it comes to you, it's like, and I think that there's a level of distrust that we've built with ourselves that we even need the care that we need. So if we don't trust that we need a nap, I'm like, no, I just need to pull it together. Oh, no, I don't need to eat. I actually
Right.
just need to finish this project and then I'll feel better and then I'll eat. When it's like, no, that's not actually the case. We needed these things for so long, but then we don't always recognize it until we're already at burnout.
That's right.
It's already
Sick.
so far gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It shows up in our bodies. Right. So yeah, we have to carve out time. It's
Yeah.
it and while the conditioning is you're being selfish or being selfish, um, we're not, right? We're actually not. We're we're actually
Yeah.
not. We're just taking care of ourselves, right? Which
Yeah.
is what we
Yeah.
should do, right?
Absolutely. It
As
does
Audre
sound
Lorde
like
has said, it's
Mhm.
self-preservation.
Yeah. And
It's self
I still think that that quote is like, I think that's just the quote of all quotes, right? But I remember
amazing.
how
Yeah.
profound it was when I first started to sit with it and I was like, oh, this is so deep. And I used to like keep the quote with me, whether it was written down or it's on my mind, to give myself permission to think about myself, like, because that's how wrong it felt. Like, it felt like, oh, because this is a part of revolution, I can do it. It didn't feel like you're a human and you deserve to be cared for. It was like, oh, this furthers the human race and it furthers the Black race. So, like, and Black women. So, like, now you can go do it. And if that's what you need to get started, please take it. And I wanted to point out the level of disenfranchisement that's present with our care that we need to believe that it's going to liberate a people before we think it's okay to take a bathroom break.
Oh, say that. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, what if it's just because we're worthy? It's
Hmm.
just because we're human too.
Yeah.
What if that's enough for me to say, "No, I'm gonna pull back. I'm gonna take care of myself," right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. What
just
if?
human. I'm human, that's why.
That's why I love that so
Mhm.
much. That's the part that feels like exhaling allows you to be seen because it's the affirmation of your worthiness, of your humanity. Wow.
Yeah, and I know I've struggled with
Mhm.
worthiness. You know,
Yeah.
I talked about my early, starting life not feeling worthy or like I'm enough, and that has been a common thread. I also It was my biological mother, my white mother, who abandoned me at the hospital because I was Black. So
Okay.
that has been this thread of you're not good enough, right?
Mhm.
And that the truth is my biological mother could tip her toe in Blackness. And when
Mhm.
it was too much, when it was gonna cause too many problems, when crosses were being burned in her parents' yard because she was pregnant by a Black man, she could
Mhm.
just walk away, right? But then I had to carry my whole life this, like, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not right. So, and we all have our stories, right?
Yeah,
Of
absolutely.
where that how that shows up. And I was so fortunate that my mom, Betty, this amazing Black gay woman in Indiana, small town in Indiana,
Mhm. Mhm.
my name came across her auntie's desk, and she was wanting to adopt another baby. And she's like, "Hey, we're having a hard time placing this baby. She's biracial." My mom, Betty, was like, "Bring that baby over here." So I was
Yeah.
raised in this loving, beautiful, um, her being a Black woman and a gay woman. There was like this level of acceptance and truth and love that was so deep. Um, that actually helped to ground me and center me in my identity, right?
Yeah.
And with all that love, growing up in a Black community, with all of the richness that was there was still this thread of I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that came from the very start of my life. And so I just want listeners to know that we all have there's this understory of why we don't feel worthy or enough. And we have to continue to lean into care for ourselves. We
Yeah.
should not sacrifice ourselves because the truth is we are worthy. We are enough. You are deserving of care. You are deserving to be seen, right? Simply because you are you, right?
Mhm.
Not like, oh, I have to fix, I have to get better, I have to heal first. No, 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 no. You are simply worthy because you are here. Your feet are on this earth. You are worthy. And so I tell that story to say, like, we all have around our
Mhm.
worthiness.
Yes.
And then we have systems of oppression that continue to confirm, right, what we're already sensing and feeling. And so lean in anyway,
Yeah.
pause anyway, rest
Yeah.
anyway. And it will feel wonky at first. It will feel like I'm doing something wrong, or I just
Yeah.
took a nap. I meant to rest
Yeah.
for 10 minutes, and
Yes.
it's an hour has
Yeah.
gone by. And
Yeah.
we
It's tomorrow.
oh, yeah. I just slept all night, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
good, good for you.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
use this metaphor a lot with my clients, like, stop standing behind yourself, shoving
Mhm.
yourself. What'd you
Mhm.
do that for? Pushing yourself into the next thing. Get in
Yeah.
front of yourself metaphorically, right? Energetically, and say, come this way. How
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay that you slept for an hour. That's how you would treat your 2-year-old. You would say,
Mhm.
"It's okay. It's okay. You
Mhm.
must have needed that extra sleep."
Mhm.
Right? And
Yep.
shifting that internal dialogue that we have with ourselves to a place
Mhm.
of care, nurturing that we're so good at, right?
Yeah.
How are you turning that toward yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's so powerful. And I love that visual because that is what we do. Like we don't think of it that way, especially because it's gotten so normalized to internalize harm, to also put that on yourself. And people don't always think about the systems that burn us out as harmful. Like they might realize that it's stressful,
Sure.
chaotic, but they may not say, oh no, this is actually toxic and harmful for me to feel like this is how I have to function in order to survive.
That's right.
And so to slow you down and to give yourself that permission to do it anyway is so beautiful. It's so
Mhm.
beautiful. I think I might take a nap after this just because you said that. Like it just it feels so it does feel like a really great reminder so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would just literally caress a child's
Mhm.
head. You'd
Yeah.
be like, "You know
Yeah.
what?" If they're, like, upset
Mhm.
or something happened that right, you
Or
would
your best friend.
yes, you would literally hold their face and say, "Baby,
Mhm. Mhm.
why don't you let me tuck you in," or "Let's
Mhm.
get you some good food. Let's get you a warm cup of tea." Like, right,
Yeah.
we're so good at it. We're
Yeah.
so good at it, but we're not necessarily good at doing it with ourselves. And
Yeah.
my whole message is, what if we gave ourselves permission to care for ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Every
Yeah.
day, throughout the day,
What
right?
could that look? Because 'cause you're also talking about repairing a relationship with care and
Mm,
self-care. How do we do that? How do we slowly get to a place where care doesn't feel selfish anymore? It doesn't feel like a distraction. It doesn't feel like
yeah.
laziness. Um, I think sometimes we also feel like if we're not being hard on ourselves and we're going too easy on ourselves, how do we undo that slowly after all these years of being taught that it's not okay?
Yeah. I think that you said it, do it slowly,
Mm,
start small. So
mhm,
here's one thing that I do that listeners and those of you that are watching, you can try this out. If my alarm goes off, which what I've been doing lately is I'm self employed, so I can schedule my day when my day starts. So not everybody can do this, but I've not been setting an alarm and I
mm,
and I've just been waking up naturally. So whatever time I wake up, and I do that again. I'm privileged to do that because I work from home and I have clients that I see virtually, so I don't have to necessarily be in person all the time somewhere. So, but if you set an alarm, your alarm goes off, you have to be up at a certain time. Okay, maybe set it a little, maybe 5 minutes earlier, 3 minutes earlier, and just lay in the bed for a second, unless you got to pee. Sometimes I have to pee, so I have to
yeah.
rush out. Right.
Right.
But just lay there for a second. Just lay there for a couple seconds and just put your hand on your chest
Mm,
and just feel your breath. You can also take a deep breath and just kind of pat yourself. I'll say to myself, "Thank you, body.
yeah.
Thank you. You did work.
Mhm,
You repaired through the night, right? Like that's part of what our
mhm,
body does, right? Thank you for that."
mhm, mm,
And then I'll go to roll over and sit up, and I'll do that slowly.
mhm,
And I'll slide my feet out of the bed slowly, right? When
mhm.
you think about how you get up in the morning, we're usually
Oh, yeah.
go, right? Like
Or we're on the phone
pick up the
scrolling.
phone, right?
Yeah.
Scrolling.
Yeah.
But what if I
Yeah.
kicked my feet out slowly? What if I put my feet on the floor slowly? What if I stood
Mhm,
up slowly? What if I walked to the bathroom a little bit slower? What if I took extra time to wash my hands and just noticed these hands have been through some things? These
Mhm.
hands have worked hard. These
Yeah.
hands have raised babies, right? What
Mhm.
if I just those little moments of like, I'll rub my feet in the evenings. I'll
Mhm.
just rub my feet and I'll say, man, feet, we
Yeah.
53 years old. You've carried me through a lot, feet.
Where?
She is. She'll be
Yeah.
54 in June, guys.
Oh,
Um,
let's
but
party.
like
Love for
those
you.
those little it feels
Mhm.
like a small, but it's just intention and it's
Mhm.
slow, right? And
Mhm.
it's small, but it's
Yeah.
those those tiny, small, slow
Mhm.
moments. It is care. So
Yeah.
again, it's the metaphor of standing behind ourselves, cracking, like,
Mhm.
"Get up, go!" Like,
Yeah. It's
it's
all
and it's a it really is a subtle shift on how we're
yeah.
moving, how we're
Mhm.
showing up. Now, there are times we have to get our
Yeah.
asses out of bed
Yeah. Yeah.
and get her moving, right? Like, there ain't
And
time to do all that, like, "Katara, I ain't got time to do." I get that,
well,
right?
but that's where I actually think that this is really powerful too, because for me, I don't have that luxury. I also don't have, like, an internal alarm clock, so I'm actually terrified of, like, what would happen if I didn't sleep that
Right,
night.
right.
But I will do is I will prepare for the next day as much as I can so that when I do wake up and I am rushing and I am tired, your breakfast is already ready.
Right,
Your lunch is already packed. Don't worry about what you're wearing to the gym. It's already on the bed. Like, something about that feels really loving to me now, before it felt more like you need to be more responsible and you need to but now it's more like you already have so much to do. So it was almost like it's still its own way of
yeah,
talking to myself about things that feel really it's easy to be unkind to yourself about, but saying like, "Hey, like, it's already done, so go ahead, run to the bathroom, do what you gotta do." But all these things you need are already prepared for you, and so it speaks to how much, like you're right, there's some things that some of us do or don't have the privilege to access, but can we
right,
immerse that kindness and that pacing, it sounds like is what you're saying, in it
yeah, yeah,
anyway.
yeah, and, saying, something that I've learned, and again, I'm older. I did get an AARP card in
Allegedly.
the mail. I got an AARP card in the mail. I said, "Y'all better take the AARP."
Hey,
Uh,
it's a privilege. It's a privilege. It's a privilege.
I was like,
They're
skillful.
quick with it.
Got quick with that. I was like, "Nah."
Yeah.
Um, I am older, so I don't have
Yeah.
young kids in the home anymore.
Mhm.
I'm just in a different stage of my life too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my whole, conversations that I'm having with Black women through the app, through the work that I do, I'm constantly saying, like, yes. And we have to push back against these systems that have really
Mhm.
ingrained in us that we have to go, 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 go. And this
Yeah.
grind culture and this hustle culture, it really only benefits the rich. But what
It helps
about
us
our
survive, but it
thrive?
doesn't help us thrive. Mhm.
What about our thriving? And we have a right to thrive. So that's my whole message is like, how can we push back,
Mhm.
even if it's just a little, making a little more room for your
Yeah.
care, right?
Mhm.
And I think it gets really overwhelming at times to think about, like, it almost feels like I have to do a whole overhaul or a whole remodel of my whole house or tear the whole house down and build a new house. All
Mhm.
I'm saying is, what if you bought some new towels and put it in? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, what if you
Yep.
just bought a cute little curtain and put it up
Yep.
instead of, I'm feeling like this,
Yeah.
there's this overwhelming sense that I have to redo my whole life.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
take a small, like, Exhale app, download it,
Yeah.
open it up, listen to it for 5 minutes. Is 5 minutes
Yeah.
enough? Do breath work
Absolutely.
for 5 minutes, a meditation for 5 minutes. Is that enough? Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
That's more
That's
than enough.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I hear you, like, I look at the science all the time of what happens even after 60 seconds of mindfulness, like, it might not seem like it because your body temperature might not change, you might still be a little pissed at your boss, whatever, but you have actually supported your physiology so much even in that
that's right.
60 seconds, and if we told you that if you drink this protein drink, it'll do something for you'll be like, "Okay, hand it over." Like, you just go for it, and that's also a systemic thing too, but we don't have to go down that road in this current episode, but we
Yeah,
don't always recognize or give credit to the small impacts that emotional and self-care can offer
that's right.
us. And I hear you referencing like in the systemic things too, but I always say the systemic echoes the interpersonal. Like you've bravely and courageously shared with us a story of abandonment, and we get systemically abandoned every day. And so a lot of what happened to you was a mirror of what's been happening and what's been taught to happen to us, right? And so I recognize that, and some of our listeners are probably like, well, maybe my story isn't exactly like that. And we also then get taught that your suffering's never bad enough because I heard that in your story too. We
Mhm.
all are under the same mirage and the same giant. We're being harmed differently. The colors are different, but the tools are the same.
That's right.
And so choosing to heal ourselves, that is why it is so inherently connected to healing what's going on systemically, even when
Mhm.
it starts in the smallest way. So, what would you say to the Black girl who wants to exhale, wants to start to reclaim her breath?
Hmm. I would say to the Black girl, you're worthy of that breath.
Mhm.
You're worthy of that exhale, period. You don't have to work harder. You don't have to do more. You don't have to get another degree unless you want to, right? You
Right.
don't, nothing to prove, nothing to earn.
Mhm.
You are worthy, period.
That's it.
Hmm.
That's so beautiful. That built that's how you allow yourself to be seen. You don't
That's it.
perform or prove. You just are.
Hmm.
It just is. I love that. I'm not Can you put that on a t-shirt?
Yeah, let's do some t-shirts. Black girl scene and exhale. Let's make a
I've been
t-shirt.
I've been pitching t-shirts at the end of every episode because y'all are just always saying these profound things and I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm joking, but I'm not joking actually. I'm being silly, but I really mean it. I think these are the messages we just didn't get.
That's true.
And it's so beautiful. I'm like, "Oh, we need to wear that. We need to see it everywhere we go. We need to bake that into our spirits because that is what we need." So, how can people find you? Because I am like, I can only imagine that the listeners are like, "Hold on, give me that information. I need the coaching sessions, the app. Give
Yeah.
me everything." How can people find you?
Well, I'm on social media. That's a real easy way to kind of follow me, my work, Katara McCarty on Instagram. You can also follow Exhale app on Instagram. We're on there as well. We're on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, you can follow all the things and what I'm doing
Wow.
there. Yeah,
Yes.
also the app is in the App Store and it's
Mhm.
also in Google Play. Our goal is to get 10,000 paid subscribers to engage with the app, download the app, use the app, so you can find us in the App Store. So we're doing this word of mouth. We don't have a lot of funding like some of those big tech giants do.
Yeah.
I know that that's not surprising to hear, but we don't have that. So we're really leaning into community. And I believe that as I'm creating something for my community, that my community is going to support it, which will allow us to continue to
Mhm.
do even more.
Yeah.
So please go to the App Store or Google Play, download and subscribe and share it with a couple of your girlfriends. Tell them about
Yes.
exhale. We are no longer waiting.
Yes.
Exhale, y'all.
That's
No
right.
more
That's
holding our breath.
right. No more. I love that. All of that information will be linked in the show notes, including the link to download the app. And I'm always spreading the word about the Exhale app. So I'm excited to see that downloads list go up in numbers very, very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and rate the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to the Scene Sunday newsletter, where I always share a little bit information on today's episode, and you'll always know when the next episode drops. Also, check out the show notes. I'll have Katara's information there so that you can download the Exhale app and stay in touch with her. And to the Black girl who is finally finding the strength and the courage to practice breathing, to exhale, I see you and I wish you the kind of breath that heals. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Black Girl Scene podcast. This podcast is meant for information purposes only and is not meant to substitute for medical advice. Although I'm a licensed therapist, this podcast does not establish a clinical relationship with you, the listener, nor does it replace a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. For more information and resources on finding a therapist or support, please visit www.blackgirlscene.com/support.